I kissed her like I always did, the same way I had for the past 7 years. Softly, with one hand on her cheek, a half smile like I couldn't wait to return. She smiled back almost too perfectly. Her voice was a whisper. Be careful. I nodded, picked up my duffel bag, and walked out the door as though I had a flight to catch. But I didn't drive to the airport. I pulled into a parallel spot 2 blocks away, engine off, windows up. The streetlight flickered once. Then everything went quiet. Too quiet for a city this size. At 9:12 p.m., I watched through the mirror as he stepped out of the shadows. He was tall, relaxed, confident in the way only a man with nothing to lose can be. Black coat, leather gloves, casual but deliberate. He rang once, then waited. She didn't make him wait long. Her silhouette filled the hallway light, barefoot, hair still damp from her bath. She leaned up, kissed him on the cheek. Maybe the mouth. It was hard to tell from the angle. The scent would be different. That's how I'd know. She always left the diffuser on when she wanted the apartment to feel safe. Lavender, vanilla, eucalyptus. But this one was new. I'd never smelled it before. Rich. Sharp, like citrus trying to cover something rotten. I unlocked my phone. The app came to life in one tap. 3 cameras, 1 audio line, bedroom, kitchen, hallway, live feed. She laughed, said something. I turned up the volume. Her voice slid through my AirPods like silk dipped in poison. He's gone till Sunday. We've got all night. I didn't blink, not when she moaned at the first kiss, not when he picked her up, not when she giggled and whispered, let's go to the bedroom. She never giggled for me. I checked the hallway feed. The motion sensor blinked green, still active. The bedroom camera picked up the edge of the bed, their shadows moving in slow arcs. I waited. I watched. I remembered. She thinks I'm gone. She thinks I never noticed the receipts, the late night walks, the change in her music playlists. But I see things. I remember patterns. And when something doesn't fit, I don't accuse. I observe. 9:12. It's engraved now, not on a watch, not yet, but in my head, sharp as glass. That's when it all broke. That's when they broke it. I opened the glove box, pulled out the black flash drive. No label, no need. I already knew where it would go. Tomorrow. No one yells in this story. No one begs. There's no drama, no chairs thrown, no fists. Only evidence. And silence. And silence, I've learned, is much heavier than sound. He wasn't the first, I know that now. But he was the first one I let walk into my home while the cameras were on. The app blinked again. Bedroom camera active. I zoomed in. The camera's resolution was surgical. Crisp enough to see her lace slip slide off the edge of the bed. Sharp enough to catch his hand tracing the curve of her hip like he owned her. He didn't. None of this belonged to him. Not the space, not the bed, not the silence. They thought they were alone. That's the real betrayal, not the bodies. The certainty that I would never find out. But I had learned long ago that silence speaks louder than accusation. It was the military that taught me how to wait. Patience isn't passive, it's preparation. That night, I let them settle. I wanted them to feel safe, to stretch out, to believe no one would interrupt the fantasy they had built on the bones of my trust. 10:43 p.m., they'd moved to the kitchen. She poured wine, 2 glasses, the ones from the wedding registry. He walked around barefoot, like he lived here. Opened the fridge, helped himself to leftovers I'd made 3 days ago, chicken marsala. He picked at it with a fork. She laughed again. It wasn't just betrayal. It was desecration. And yet, my hands were still, heartbeat steady. She turned on music, something slow, sultry, French, the kind she used to play for me back when she cared. Back when we made dinners together instead of sitting across from each other in silence. The music was a signal. They were returning to the bedroom. I pulled on my coat, checked the battery on the handheld camera, fully charged. The walk to the building took less than 5 minutes, but I made it stretch. Each step calculated. No rush, no panic. My breath was even. By the time I reached the hallway, they were back in bed. I stood outside our apartment door. My hand hovered near the doorknob. I didn't knock. I entered with my own key. Inside, the scent hit me first. Spiced neroli. Unfamiliar. A smell not chosen for comfort, but seduction. The diffuser was still humming. Every light was off except the soft glow from the bedroom. I could hear their breathing before I saw them. Close, rhythmic, intimate. I turned the camera on, walked through the hallway like I owned it. Which I did. She looked up first. Her eyes met mine. And for a full 3 seconds, she didn't move, as if her brain couldn't compute what was happening. Then her mouth opened, but no words came out. He sat up, confused, maybe drunk, maybe just stupid. I didn't stop walking. I reached the doorway and said, calm and low, "Don't get up, this is already being recorded." She gasped, not from fear, but from recognition. She knew my tone, knew I wasn't here to scream. That scared her more. Maxim, yes, I learned his name later, started to say something. I didn't let him. Still filming, I spoke again. "You knew the cameras were there, you just didn't think they were turned on." I paused. Her lip trembled. "They were..." Then I turned, walked out the same way I entered. No slam doors, no shouting, just the quiet click of a lock behind me. The footage was already uploading to my encrypted drive, and tomorrow a single black envelope would arrive at her father's office. No message, no return address, only the truth. The next morning was still, the kind of stillness that follows a storm no one heard coming. My phone vibrated once, then twice. I ignored it. I already knew who it was, probably her. Or him, or both, caught in the aftershock of a night they never saw coming. I didn't check the footage again, once was enough. The copy was encrypted and archived in triplicate, stored in 3 separate secure cloud drives under false names. I wasn't looking to blackmail, this wasn't extortion, this was memory insurance. The real move had already been made. The envelope had gone out before sunrise, plain black, hand-sealed. Inside, the flash drive. No note, no context, just the video file titled 9_12 p.m. PF. I'd had it couriered directly to her father's law firm. He was old school, military background like mine. A man who believed in honor, family, and consequences. When we first met, he liked me because I reminded him of himself. Quiet, unyielding, focused. Now he would see what his daughter had become and what I had become in response. By noon, my phone had stopped ringing. That's when I knew he'd seen it, and so had she. I spent the rest of the day methodically erasing her presence from my life. Every file, every photo, every shared calendar entry. Her fingerprints were everywhere, until they weren't. Divorce proceedings had already begun in silence. I'd filed 2 days before I staged the fake business trip. All assets had been frozen, and the deed to the apartment had already been signed over to a holding company under my name alone. I wasn't about to share the ruins. She would come home to the same bed, but the locks would be changed, the passwords altered, the space still smelled of betrayal, but no longer of her. I remembered something she used to say when we first started dating. The scariest people are the ones who go quiet when they're angry. Back then, she said it playfully with a hand on my chest. Now I wondered if she remembered it at all. Probably not. She never really paid attention to consequences, only to feelings. And feelings can be weaponized. I sat in my car again that evening, in the same spot. The apartment windows were dark. No candles, no diffuser. For the first time in weeks, the place looked empty. Then headlights. Her car pulled up slowly, like the guilt had weight. She stepped out cautiously. Different tonight. No elegance, no grace. Just a woman stripped of control. She stood outside the building for a long time, phone in hand, staring at the screen, probably trying to find the right words, or maybe figuring out if she had the courage to walk into the fallout. I didn't move, didn't blink. I just watched. Eventually she walked inside. The next 47 minutes were hers to live with. I didn't need to see them. I could imagine the flickers of panic, the deadlocks, the Wi-Fi password rejection, the absence of her name on the lease, and in the kitchen drawer, the paperwork I left behind. One sheet, printed and signed. I release you. This home no longer remembers you. You may leave your key on the counter. That was it. By the next morning, she had. The key sat alone, glinting beside the ceramic bowl where we used to drop loose change and late-night sushi receipts. She left no note, only silence. But silence, as always, says everything. The week that followed was efficient. My lawyer handled everything. She made one attempt to dispute the asset transfer, but my preemptive notarized documents left no room for argument. Her father didn't speak on her behalf. I assumed he no longer could. What surprised me most was Maxim. He didn't last a week. 3 days after the footage was delivered, I got a message from a mutual acquaintance. He'd ghosted her, changed his number, moved cities, claimed things got complicated. No doubt, he was never built for the aftermath. He thought this was a story where he played the hero, the bold lover. But there are no heroes here, only architects. And I had built this ending long before they ever stepped into it. One evening, I found myself back on the rooftop across the street, the same one where I placed the lens, where I watched the first betrayal unfold in muted shadow. This time, the camera wasn't in my hand, only the watch, black leather strap, steel face, custom engraving on the back, 9/12, never again. I didn't need revenge, I needed clarity. I got both. I checked the time, then I left. It wasn't the footage that destroyed her. It was the silence afterward. Days passed. I didn't block her number. I didn't respond either. There were no calls, no texts, no messages from mutual friends, only a void she couldn't control. That was the punishment. Not rage. Not retaliation. Just absence. She tried to reach out through others. Her sister messaged once. "She's not okay." I read it. Let it sit in the notification tray, then deleted it. What was she expecting? Forgiveness on demand? What happens when the person you've betrayed doesn't scream, doesn't chase, doesn't fight for you, but simply vanishes? You begin to unravel. That's what I wanted, for her to feel the shape of her own choices reflected back in cold silence, not from vengeance, but from clarity. 3 days after she left the key on the counter, I received an envelope. Handwritten, my name in cursive, the kind she used when she wrote postcards from vacations years ago. No return address. Inside, a single page. Andri, I don't know how to speak to you anymore, so I'll write. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't threaten. That was worse. You turned into someone I don't recognize, and maybe that's fair because I became someone you shouldn't have trusted. When you walked in that night, I wanted to run. Not from shame. From what I saw in your eyes, it wasn't anger, it was finality. I thought I knew how to manipulate situations, twist guilt, distract with beauty, with softness, but you didn't give me that option. You just ended it. And now I can't sleep. I hear every creak in the apartment. I replay everything I said. I think about the things I almost said and hate myself for them. I can still smell the diffuser. The scent clings to my sheets. I threw them out yesterday. It didn't help. Maxim's gone. He blocked me. He was never yours to punish, but somehow you erased him more completely than I could imagine. I thought you'd scream. Instead, you disappeared, and now I'm screaming inside. I wish you'd yell. I wish you'd slam a door. At least then I'd know where the walls are. But this silence, you've turned it into a mirror, and I hate what I see in it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed to say this. I see it now. Yeah, you didn't lose control. You said that, and it broke me. I folded the letter once, filed it under evidence of understanding, not of remorse. Understanding, that was enough. I didn't need apologies, I needed acknowledgement, and the letter gave me that, unfiltered, without her perfume, without the mascara-stained theatrics, just ink and guilt. The next step was practical. I closed the joint bank account. It had been dormant since I pulled my funds weeks earlier. She would have noticed, probably interpreted it as paranoia. It wasn't. It was discipline. Control isn't taken. It's maintained. I spoke to my lawyer again. We reviewed the divorce timeline. No fault. Expedited. No children. No entanglements beyond property. And the property, as it stood now, was already mine. The apartment was cold in the mornings, but that suited me. I'd removed the framed photos, boxed up her books. I even replaced the duvet cover, just to purge the last impression of her presence. It's strange how love fades so quickly when truth stands in its place, but not pain. Pain lingers, not as a wound, but as a lesson. I began spending more time on the roof, the same one where I'd waited. I didn't need the camera anymore. The lens had served its purpose. But the elevation, the distance from the street, from the noise below, it gave me space to breathe. Sometimes I'd see her walking alone. She didn't know I could still see her. She always checked the windows, but never the rooftops. Most people forget to look up. That's where I live now, above it. One afternoon, I watched her sit at the cafe across the street from our building, the same one where we used to go Sunday mornings. She ordered tea, not coffee. That told me everything. Coffee was my ritual. She used to pretend it was hers. Now she had to invent new habits. A man passed her table. She looked up, hopeful. He didn't stop. She looked down again, stirred her tea. Didn't drink it. I didn't pity her, but I saw her. There's a difference. I stayed there until dusk, then went back inside. Made dinner, chicken marsala, again. It wasn't about nostalgia. It was about continuity. I hadn't changed. I had just removed the infection. The house was quiet now, not haunted, just clean. My laptop sat open on the table. The camera files, the backups erased. The flash drive, gone, burned. I wasn't keeping trophies. This wasn't a victory. It was a release. One final act remained. I walked to the safe in the hallway closet, opened it, pulled out the watch. Black leather, steel face. The engraving caught the light again. 912. I fastened it to my wrist. Not as a womb to wear, but a boundary to remember. The apartment is quiet now. Not because it's empty, but because it's mine. There's no echo of her voice in the walls, no scent of her favorite candles. Even the furniture feels different. I've rearranged it, not to erase her, but to make sure nothing remains in the same place it once did. That's the difference between running from pain and reclaiming space. Every object here has passed a test. Does this belong to me now or to a memory of us? Most things failed. The duvet cover, gone. The wine glasses, replaced. The framed print she insisted on hanging crooked for charm, taken down. The nail hole filled and painted over. The city outside keeps moving, horns, footsteps, laughter, and stairwells, but inside I've cultivated stillness, not emptiness, stillness. There's a difference. A month has passed since that night, since the recording, since the flash drive in the envelope landed on her father's desk like a dropped grenade. The explosion was quiet, but the damage was permanent. I received no reply, not from him, not from her, but I didn't expect one. I didn't need validation. Truth doesn't require applause. And now there's only one final thing to do. I sit at the kitchen table with my laptop open. The final clip, just under 8 minutes long, plays once more. Not out of obsession, out of ritual. My last viewing, their laughter, the whispering, the way she spoke like she was 17 again. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's just distant, like watching strangers in a play, a sad, slow tragedy. I close the laptop, pull the external drive from its port. It's the last one left. I hold it in my palm. It feels heavier than it should, denser, like it holds the weight of everything I carried for too long. I place it on the countertop next to the stainless steel sink. The lighter fluid ignites easily, the flame eats through plastic and metal, and the acrid smoke curls toward the vent like a final exorcism. I stand by and let it burn. I don't film it. I don't photograph the ashes. No records, no receipts. This isn't part of a campaign. This is closure. After the fire dies, I wash the remains down the sink, turn the water to cold, let it run. When the last black flake disappears, I dry my hands, open the window, and breathe. Outside, dusk settles over the city. That familiar amber haze touches the rooftops, the glass buildings reflecting the last light of day. I used to watch sunsets with her. Now, I just watch them. And that's enough. I step into the living room. The new bookshelf is filled with titles I actually intend to read. The music playing in the background is instrumental, no lyrics, no sentiment, just clean, sharp piano. I look down at my wrist. The watch sits snug beneath the cuff of my sleeve. 9:12, never again. Not a timestamp of pain, a boundary, a promise. And for the first time in what feels like years, I make coffee without checking who might walk through the door behind me. 'Cause no one will, not unless I say so. No more uninvited guests. No more second chances dressed as apologies. No more explanations. This is my house, my space, my silence. And silence, I've learned, is not what remains when the noise stops. It's what begins when you finally choose yourself.